What's up guys, Dan here. Thanks for tuning in with us again. Today we're going to go over an install of our Skins T-slots, the Skins Next Level QR pack, as well as the Pac-Man handlebar bag. Let's turn some wrenches. All right, so up on the table, you can see two different sizes here. This is I call this the standard pack, right? You've got your standard free ride QR bag, as well as your smaller crossover bag. This one, I like going on the longer tunnel, so a 165 or 63. And this goes back, guys, these things mount up on our Axis chassis sleds, even back to the Pro RMKs. And it's been a really good bag for us over the years. Learned a lot, made a few changes to them over the years. But I'd tell you that the larger bag, can it fit on a 55? And the answer would be sure. Probably a bit too big for a 46. So for those of you guys that run that super short sled, you'd probably want to go into the free ride setup. I even use this smaller bag on the 55s. I like seeing a bit more tunnel and not so much bag back there. On the 65s, especially for those of you that do pack a lot of stuff, this thing has a ton of interior space. So comparable to a Barant approved large lock and ride bag, something like that. This thing's got plenty of storage. It's even got adjustable straps. So if you do have to at times overpack it, you can flat put a lot of stuff in these waterproof storage bags. All right, so when you purchase this thing, you pull it out of the box. You guys can see the buckles, pretty self-explanatory. You can just open up the lid, get inside, and you guys are gonna notice 100% waterproof setup. The lip that goes around this actually rolls around this edge. So water hits on it, those spring conditions, your ice scratchers are throwing snow all over the place. We're still not getting water inside of this pack, and it's been tried and true for many, many years, and I love that about it. So we've got a bunch of storage here. This thing flips open as you just get it, and here is a portion of what you're gonna need for the install. This has the directions. It's got all of the things necessary to put this onto the T-slot and get you up and riding. Also a quick note, the internals of this is actually meant to Velcro and come up and out of this outer shell. So for those of you that never wanted to take this off your snowmobile, you can actually take this part of the bag separately from what's mounted to the sled and take it inside at night, making it truly quick release. And if you did have a major spill inside of this thing, the idea for me was that you could take this out, wash it, dry it, and put it back in there. It wasn't connected to this outer hard shell. All right, so along with the tunnel storage, we have got a product that we've had out for the last couple seasons, ever since we started with the Matrix, and it's called the T-slots. So you guys know that as you purchase a Next Level QR bag, whether it's the free ride bag or the crossover, that the T-slot on a Matrix is necessary. Have I had guys say that, why can't, because there is no tunnel cooler in the back, direct mount your tunnel bag to the sled? And can you do that? And the answer is, I'm not in control of that. You certainly can. Does this provide the T-slot that we had prior to the Matrix so that you can have some adjustability within the tunnel bags and or any other type of rack or bag that you've had prior to the Matrix, where it was all using the T-slot nuts, as you guys will remember, that would fit a lot of those other accessories. So the T-slot was invented so that we would just, again, recreate that spot. And you can see that in the long one here, where as you look through that, you can take your T-slot nuts now and just slide those through there. And this simply mounts right into the factory provided holes that are on the Matrix tunnel. And these are already all set up, whether it's a 65, 55, or 46. So these are our long ones. We call that the 24-inch. And then these are our shorter ones that are the 18-inch. So obviously if you had the smaller free ride tunnel bag, a lot of guys that just don't need that excess material on the snowmobile would go to this. Food for thought, or what I would point out, is even on a 55, running this longer T-slot, even if you know that for now you're gonna run that smaller free ride bag, it's not the end of the world to be thinking ahead that you've had this on the sled. That way if you ever decide to go from that smaller bag to the big one, you're already set up for it. Not to mention on the back of our Matrix tunnels, any type of tunnel support that we can get, either from an aftermarket bumper and or from something like this coming back on the rear of the snowmobile. That's all leading to more rigidity and hopefully less any kind of failure that would be happening. So really good idea to keep that support out there. Okay, before we get into the install of our large QR bag, as well as our long length T-slots, let's just talk about the tools necessary. So I've just got a power ratchet, right? What's nice about a power ratchet, right? You just got a deep well 10 millimeter here. It's nice that you can use power to get a lot of this done, and then you can just, you know, use it as a manual ratchet when you get close to just snug it up just perfect. We don't want any of this hardware, guys. The fail that people make is they use big impact tools and they ramrod this stuff together, and that's how you can end up stripping out and just excessively wearing on some of this hardware. So we've got our power ratchet there. I've got an open end 10 millimeter wrench. I've got my stubby ratchet that's here, and I'll show you why I like that. And then I've got my T4, and this is a ball end Allen. And it'll be important as you do this to not use one that's really ultra worn out. If you've got to go get one brand new, it's nice that these are nice and crispy, and they'll go into this hardware and really hold, hold really well. So that's a really good important tool. I've got one more 3/8 socket that's right there. And then I've got this pencil, and the pencil comes in right towards the tail end of the install, and I'll show you where that comes in handy. All right, so now that we've pulled everything that's necessary for this install out of the tunnel bag, and we've also got a brand new, this is how it would get shipped to you, T-slot setup, all the hardware included. Let's get into this and we'll break down what all this hardware looks like, where it goes, and then we'll install it on the snowmobile. All right, so before we go to that install, we've opened up the hardware here, and I just want to point out a few things. So the T-slot, this actual, bolt setup, we want to make sure that we've got 8 of those. So there's 2, 4, 6, and 8. And then out of the washers, guys, we're going to need that again. So 2, 4, 6, and 8. Perfect, and now we're gonna check our nylocks. 2, 4, 6, and 8. The remaining screws that are right here, and we can actually show a shot of this, these are, this is another bolt that if you have a problem with underneath the bag itself, Skins just offers you some spares since they're at a specific size. So this actually doesn't go as part of the install. This is just some spare bolts to the bottom side of the QR bag. Have I ever had one come loose? And the answer is never. So I do have a bunch of these in one of the bins over here at the shop. Just before the install, I think I've said that 3 times now, but you guys will notice that you've got the lock and ride flex system that's already on here. If you picked your sled up from the dealer, they've actually got to put this on as part of their PPI, right? As they're putting the sled together. Many of you guys kind of know that, but if you get your sled and you're getting ready to put this bag or these T-slots on, know that it requires us taking this off. I had a few emails and phone calls last year of people in a panic that the T-slots actually didn't line up with the holes. Remember that the first hole that we use with these T-slots is actually this hole. So let's go ahead and remove this component. The start of the T-slot, you guys can notice that the hole that's closest to the end on the T-slot, whether it's the large 24-inch or it's the shorter 18, the hole that's closest to the end is always the front. Well, guess what? It uses that 10mm hole just after the gas tank bolt. So you guys are gonna notice as I lay this down, I can line up that hole right there with the front of the T-slot. And now you're sitting there thinking, well, I've got to get rid of these. If you had a wrapped snowmobile, you can go ahead and take something sharp, right? And because that's now lined up, you've got a way that you can come through and you can just pop these holes just like that. And that's how you guys can find those other holes. It's doing it for you. What I like to do is I just pull those tabs off. It's gonna get covered by the T-slot anyway. So this screw is provided in the kit. You've got 6 of them. This is where you're gonna use that Allen number 4. These go on the top side, down through the T-slot and into the tunnel. So this is gonna go right there. I've got our hole closest to this edge. That's dropping down into there. And then I guide that into that hole. And on the rest of them, as you kind of go along there, you can tell they're gonna fall right into place. All right, so we're getting close to where we're gonna need some actual tools. I'm putting some of this stuff out onto the table or out onto the tunnel so you can see it. You'll notice that you've got a washer and you've got a nylock nut. So each one of these, you're gonna get really crafty at bringing this thing from underneath and finding that bolt that you're gonna use this number 4 Allen. I always start at the back and I just work one side and then the next side. And all I'm doing here is just getting these things started, and then I'll bring the wrenches in and hand tighten the rest of it. Here we go. All right, so now that we've got that hardware, those 6 nut and bolts put in, T-slots are in their spot, I'll go ahead and use that stubby 3/8 ratchet, take that number 4 and go ahead and put that on there. I'm gonna use my 10mm open end. All right, we're almost finishing up, like tightening everything down to get our T-slots in place. As a reminder, guys, especially with this nut and bolt that's all the way in here, like you see I've got my arm kind of tweaked all the way in the back there. And on a 165 or just the longer sleds, you know, this is a move, having to get that wrench all the way back there. I would just tell you guys, take your time. It's a bummer when you drop the washer or the nut down in the track, then you're finding it. Go nice and easy with these back two. And another tech tip too would be put the sled up on like a motorcycle stand, and that opens up that area a bit more for you so you can get your hands back in there. When you're down on the shop floor, it's a bit harder for me to get my hand in there. I'm a little guy, so I can kind of get in there, but this last one, or these ones that are in the very back right here, again, take your time. This is where if I've seen anybody mess up the hardware, it's right in here, and you'll get it. It just takes a little bit of time to do it right. And then you know that this thing is on there secure, and hopefully you're doing it one time, and then you've got your tunnel storage and everything else on for the life of the sled. All right, so we are totally secure with our T-slots. We've got all 6 of that of our nut and bolts securely fastened. Again, everything just using hand tools, hand tight. So moving on, we talked about these coming in the kit, and you can tell that we've just established that T-slot area. So we're gonna go ahead and put 4 of these on each side, and we're gonna just slide them down. No real position necessary just yet. We'll do the same thing on this side. You guys will notice the machining that's with this. It all just slides in there really, really well. You'll know if you've done something wrong or if you have a screwed up part, if those things won't just freely move within there. So this component is the front part of this. The reason that this is the front part of the bag. It actually has a piece that slides right down into that and prevents it from going any further. So this would be the front, and there is no left or right. This is just the front on this side. I just line that up with the T-slot and go ahead and put that in position. I'll just leave it there. This being the back part that creates the quick release that actually holds the bag on. And we're doing the same thing. Line that up with that, line that up with that, and just leave that sitting there for now. Repeat the process on the other side. And again, you're doing this one time on your only snowmobile. This will take a little bit of getting used to. I've done this many, many times, and it doesn't take me all that long. Okay, so we're in position there. We are getting super close. All right, so in the instructions, it actually tells you to go ahead and run these washers over the top of those. This is another one of those, what I would consider extra pieces of hardware. If you drop these down in there, on some of these, because of the powder coating, I'd notice that the washers don't lay in there completely flat. So you know what I do? I ditch these. So another tech tip, as you guys look down in there, and oftentimes, especially with this one that's here, it is really difficult to get your hands in there and get that nut over the top of the bolt. And so over the years of installing these things, we've realized that I'll take my deep well 10mm socket that I've got here. I'm gonna take that nut and drop it right down into there. Now I can take that thing, guide it over the top, fish it down in there, and start threading it. All right, so we've finished putting the nylock nuts over the top of each of these. These are all just left in here nice and loose. I'll go ahead and put that deep well back onto my powered wrench here, and we'll go ahead and install the bag, and I'll show you what we do next. All right, so a great way, especially with the big bag, and you kind of see where the T-slots kind of begin and end there, is you come over here to the back part of this, and what you can do, and you guys notice that where the buckle is, it gives you pretty minimal room to get your hands in on either side to be able to take this bag off. I would tell you that I want my bag as close to the rider as I can be. I don't like when the bag is way, way out here. So when we built the T-slot to mimic or match the base design of this bag, you can go ahead and on the mounting side of it, it's relatively simple. You can notice that I want that bracket to be flush with the T-slot from back here. So you can go ahead and kind of check that Make sure that that bracket is nice and even back there. You can pull this back off and go ahead and tighten the back first. So that's what we're gonna do. Do the same thing on this other side. And here we go. Nice and tight. Nice and tight. Good and flush. So we've got those back parts tightened. That's not going anywhere. Let's go ahead and reinstall the front. So we're gonna slide those pieces, and you guys can tell that design, it goes right up into there. And now I'm gonna put this to where this is nice and flush back here, meaning that when this clamp comes up to tighten down, that's just right there, nice and even. So we make that as close as we can, leave that like it is. And now I'm gonna take my pencil, and I'll do this on this side so you guys can see it. I'm gonna just make a mark right here, just like that. Do the same thing on this side. Make a mark. Make sure that you can clearly see the mark. And then we take this off one more time. All right, so we've got our little identifier mark. I simply bring that up. And now I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this down with my ratchet wrench. Here we go. Nice little quarter turn. That looks really clean. Remember, not trying to go uber tight with these things. Same thing over here, right on my little mark. Check it again. Looking good. Okay, the mounting of our T-slots, as well as the brackets, and you guys can tell what holds on the QR bag. Obviously, the T-slot doesn't have to change. The brackets, as you go to the smaller free ride pack, those would be a lot closer together, but you can tell now that you'd have the system, whether you wanted to go with this bag or the smaller bag, all you'd have to do is slide these in, and you can interchange bags relatively easily. So you'll see how that drops into place right there. So you just come right over the top of this on both sides, slot the bag in right there. And if our measurements are correct, which you can tell they are, we're gonna bring these right up over the top and fasten them down. I would tell you that when these are new, they're pretty rigid. So it's gonna take a little bit of time to break that in, but once it starts to go down, and within reason, guys, this doesn't have to be super tight, but you're gonna just get those down nice and tight. The OCD in me, I kind of get these things to where they're kind of looking even. So that's gonna rotate down nice and tight like that, nice and tight like that. Kind of rotate them so they look the same, and boom, that bag is on there. No matter what you're doing with your snowmobile, you're jumping huge, you're rolling down the hill, that thing is so secure on the back of that snowmobile, it's freaking awesome. And then obviously, guys, being it that quick release, you can get behind here, even with gloves on, get that buckle, this buckle, this buckle, this buckle. And what's unique about that is you've got a shell. If I've got to do some work on a sled, I can throw this down onto the snow, and I've got this really cool tool tray to work on all those things. Inside of the bag, you guys have seen, we've got it organized. You got a spot right here that you can see through. If you've got wet gloves, wet hat, wet balaclava, something like that, this little storage area is pretty awesome because you can throw that stuff in there and separate it from the rest of the stuff that you've got in there that's hopefully dry, right? That makes sense. So completely waterproof storage. Hope you guys really like the install part of this. Remember to leave those questions and comments. Before we go, I wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about the Next Level Skins Pac-Man bag. All right, so the Next Level Skins Pac-Man bag, you guys have seen this. Barant has a bag that's very, very similar. This is called the Pac-Man Max. It's the biggest bag that Skins makes, and we love these things. In terms of product that's been designed over the years, this has by far been one of my absolute favorites. And it's because the storage of where it is, how easy it is to install, and then honestly the contents that go in here. So my cell phone will fit here, my sat phone, my GoPro, my Spot, lots of storage area within all of these spaces here. It is just so nice, and it's kind of right at your fingertips. back here, you can have a saw, a Leatherman, some granola bars, all kinds of things. And the install, guys, is about as simple as it gets. You can see this buckle off the top. We didn't even need to unbag or do anything like this. There's truthfully no hardware really included. You can tell that these clips come right off the crossbar, both front bag, and then you've got these two Velcro spots underneath. So you simply put these things on, drop them right down over the crossbar, use this as the safety, and then the two Velcro tabs on either side, and you're in business. So the Next Level Pac-Man, this is, like I had said, undoubtedly one of the best selling and most useful storage items, and also because of where that weight goes on the sled, like right over the center of the snowmobile. How many times I've come into this bag with my body and it's protected me from all things the handlebars. So I'd say that this is like the perfect accent to what we use as tunnel storage, and another great item sold right here at the Next Level shop. All right, guys, well, I've done quite a few of these, and already quite a few of these this year. This bag has been around for the last few years, tried and true, and we've just continued to make small, but I'd say really good improvements as we've learned from you guys, the consumer, and then just me kind of putting these things through their paces over the years. Hopefully you guys like the video. Hopefully it's relatively clear. I tell you that it's simple, right? If these things are items that I can install, I know you guys can too. I use YouTubes for all things installs as well, and so I felt like this was a necessary one for the channel. Handlebar bag is simple. Both of these things are for sale here at the Next Level shop. We'll put a drop-down description or a drop-down link in this video. You guys remember, like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time.